All right. Well, welcome to the Will Austin Show here on iHeartRadio. We're redoing, actually replacing a show that we did earlier this morning because of the poor sound quality. And let me pull the curtain back for you a little bit. Here is what happened. I use a Samson CO1U USB studio condenser microphone, as you can tell. A pretty decent sounding microphone for USB for sure. And it's plugged into the USB port of my computer. And I use a pretty nice set of headphones, very comfortable to keep my ears toasty warm, which I like, and block out a lot of the outside noise. And it has an 1/8 inch plug on the end. And as you could probably guess, the computer I use, which is a, what the heck is this? An HP. I used to have the model number sticker here, but I took that off. Which is a nice little computer. It has a place on the left hand side, one for the headphone, one for the microphone. Don't get ahead of me. Yes, I plugged my headphones into the mic jack, which made the sound really bizarre. As a matter of fact, it sounded like it was coming, the show sounded like it was coming from my head. Well, it was. Whatever sound was vibrating from my head was what you heard. And that's just not good enough quality for you. So I thought I'd come back and do another one this evening called about basically the same thing. The best thing, my best tweet, I think, if I could pat myself on the back for the best live tweet of the night, was the best thing about the State of the Union address is that this president is only going to do one more. That was the best thing. Other than that, I thought the State of the Union address was full of hypocrisy. It was full of doublespeak. It was full of emotional falderall. It was full of throwing spaghetti against the wall to see what he could get the American public to buy into, and thus bully the Republican-led Congress into basically getting behind whatever program that the president is going to use in the last 2 years of his presidency to build his legacy. Because I'm telling you, I think that President Obama is very, very concerned about his legacy. I think that he is somebody who is self-absorbed enough to think that his legacy at this point is the most important thing. While on one side of his face saying that we need to cooperate, there needs to be, in his terms, a new politics. The president made it abundantly clear that he was not in any way, shape, or form going to compromise or go backwards on any of these two major pieces of legislation during his presidency, Dodd-Frank or the Affordable Care Act. That he wasn't going to lessen any of the regulations that exist in Dodd-Frank, including something that he mentioned, that there is a supposed consumer protection agent or entity inside Dodd-Frank that doesn't answer to anybody. If you can imagine, there is an agency that it was created by Dodd-Frank that doesn't answer to Congress. They don't get funded through Congress. As a matter of fact, the director simply requests money from the Federal Reserve and gets it. They get to decide on their own budget, how they use it, and they don't answer. They don't answer to the White House. They don't answer to the Congress. And this was done intentionally by Democrats to have a completely autonomous government within a government when it comes to certain things, when it comes to watching American corporations. And the president he actually mentioned that office, so he made it abundantly clear that he is simply not in any way, shape, or form going to, as he, in his words, go back and go backwards and re-argue these things. But he said at the same time there should be this spirit of cooperation. Now, cooperation and compromise, I think, in the president's eyes, is to, yeah, y'all can argue all you want, but in the end, do what I ask you. Follow my agenda. You know what? Because you can't, and if I was going to talk to President Obama, I would say, President Obama, you can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways in Washington, D.C. You can't have you can't have it both ways everywhere. You can't say to your children, not that Congress is children, but you can't say to your children, I want you to explore and find your way, and you know what, and do the best you can, and have many learning experiences. However, if you step outside of what I believe you ought to be doing, then I'm going to bring the hammer down. You don't do both. And this is what the president said last night, ostensibly the Congress, because both houses, both houses of legislature were there in the House, the House of Representatives, the 435 members of the House of Representatives, as well as the 100 members of the Senate were all there in attendance. You can't say to them, Mr. President, you can't say that it's okay to argue, it's okay to debate, it's okay to, but what I want you to do ultimately is, this is the stuff that we used to agree to say, and he said this a couple of times. This is the stuff that Republicans and Democrats used to agree on. I think, again, he lives in a time where, yes, probably. He lives in a time where Republicans and Democrats used to agree on everything. But now there's enough conservatives who are inside the Republican Party, and we are here on the exterior now, and we have a voice. As a matter of fact, I want to tell you about something good that happened to me a little later in the show that I want you here, my iHeartRadio audience, to be a part of. As a matter of fact, I need you to be a part of. We are growing. We're becoming one of the fastest growing independent programs here on iHeartRadio, and I want you to be a part of what I have coming. So I'll tell you about it a little later, before we go to bed, because it's 10:39 p.m. here on the East Coast of the United States. So anyway, the president wants his cake, and he wants his cake, wants to have his cake and eat it too. You can't say that, well, we used to agree on this. And what he doesn't understand is that times have changed, Mr. President. More conservatives have a voice, not only inside the Republican Party, but out here. For so long, conservatives were silent, or only had the podium of some magazines, some newspapers. But as the technology has allowed us to, there are shows like this. There are shows on Blog Talk Radio. There are blogs that didn't exist before. There are websites that didn't exist before. There's a bigger and bigger platform and megaphone for conservatives to reach out to the rank and file Republicans that are conservatives, and even the people who aren't rank and file Republicans, to say what Republicans have been agreeing on with Congress with Democrats for so many years, is not what they want at all. It's not what they want at all. I have a neighbor who is stuck in that very same paradigm. Old Republicans, before the Tea Party, this is the stuff they used to do. And now, because it's a black man in the White House, that's what their problem is. Well, no, the president, like a lot of presidents, is a victim of when he happened to be president. Barack Obama happens to be president in a time where technology has allowed for a larger, louder conservative voice than in any time in history. And there happens to be more discontent with Congress and the federal government in general now than ever before. I think that President Obama is now at the pinnacle of the disaster of what the federal government has become. Maybe if he gets elected during the Clinton years, then maybe he isn't looked at the same way. Maybe he doesn't take the the whole idea of Republicans taking the brunt of being racist isn't as prevalent as it is now, because we are more divisive, not just since November of 2008. That's not when the divisiveness started. It started well before that. I think the president has sort of ended up at this place in history. So the disagreement with the White House is not a disagreement with a black president. The disagreement with the White House is a disagreement with a set, and with Washington as a whole, with a set of policies, plans, legislation that have failed America, and that have failed the majority of Americans. You know, the president said when talking about the lifting the embargo on Cuba, that if you try something for 50 years and it doesn't work, it may be time to try something else. Well, we have tried a lot of the very same programs that are policy initiatives that he put forth. In this State of the Union address last night. We've been trying those for more than 50 years, and they haven't worked. Why do we continue to do it? Why do we continue programs that are products of Johnson's War on the Poor and the Great Society? They have not worked. We have not eliminated poverty. We have not stamped out poverty at all. Reagan's war on drugs has not worked. Why do we continue it? Now, I'm not the libertarian who's saying that we should. Part of the libertarian response was to immediately pardon all people who were in jail for minor drug offense, nonviolent drug offenses. Well, I'm not there yet. But if we're going to stay true to what the president said, if you're going to stop doing things that don't work, then why in tarnation are we stuck with the Federal Reserve since 1913 and the IRS? These are two things that have not worked for Americans. They have not worked. Why do we still have them? Why do we still have, instead of doing something different with this tax code, which is becoming more and more, which all it's done in this history has become more and more complicated, and somebody's always talking about a freaking loophole. Let me help you. There's no such thing as a loophole. The law is what it is, and what people do is they find ways to obey the law, obey the letter of the law, even if they're not obeying the intent, because you can't put me in jail over the intent. You can only put me in jail for what I did. And you can only be, and for everything else, you just have to be mad at me. So there's no loopholes. The rich aren't taking advantage of loopholes. Because there's no such thing as a loophole. The law is what it is, and either people are obeying the law or what they're doing, the law doesn't address. No loopholes. So this idea, and both parties mentioned it, the president mentioned it in the State of the Union address, and Joni Ernst mentioned it in the Republican response. There's no such thing as a loophole. The law is what it is. And if the laws don't work, change them. If the law doesn't work, it doesn't accomplish what you want it to accomplish, then either change it or get rid of it. So by the same token that he mentioned when he was talking about the ending the embargo on Cuba, you try something for 50 years, it doesn't work. 50 years and it doesn't work. Maybe you should change it. Well, I think the same thing about a lot of the plans that came out of the Great Society and Johnson's War on the Poor. They haven't eliminated poverty. They haven't changed the human condition. They haven't eliminated. Racism. They didn't. I mean, not everybody is living in bright, shiny cities or nice, scrubby, clean, picket fence suburbs. They're not. The ghettos of 1964 are still the ghettos of 2014. Some 50 years later. Newark, New Jersey is still not a bright, shining city on a hill. Still not. Even with all of the best laid plans of Democrats as councilmen, commissioners, mayors, state reps, state senators, U.S. senators, U.S. reps, and presidents, Newark, New Jersey is still a ghetto. Newark, New Jersey is still a horrible place to live. Still. Even with the Harlem Renaissance, Harlem is not somewhere where the average person wants to move to and raise a family. Watts and East LA are still not places where people move to raise families. Liberty City in Miami is still not somewhere where people move to raise families, because because all these places have great school systems, and all these, no matter what the unions say, they don't have great school systems, and they are still crime ridden. They are still dangerous. Some of them more dangerous than ever. Places like New Jersey and East Orange and Patterson and Passaic Camden are more dangerous now than they've ever been. Even with all the federal intervention at every single level, from cradle to the grave. So in 50 years, that hasn't worked. Why do we continue that? Why do Democrats and why does the president continue to protect those things with life and limb, even though they have been failures? Even though they have been unmitigated failures. Interesting. All right, we'll be back with more of the Will Lawson Show right after these messages. Stay tuned.
All in together now. We can make it better now. Come on, can we do it?
Yeah, you know that we can.
We rope it up,
cause we know how to jump.
we roll it out,
Cause we know how to skate.
we'll cut it down,
Cause we know what to eat.
we'll swap it out.
We eat healthy stuff.
Can we do it?
Yeah, you know that we can.
Can we do it?
Yeah, you know that we can.
Yeah, well come on.
Today's a good day to grab your kids and hang out with them for an hour. Dance, walk, play a sport, or cook a healthy meal. Because just moving a little and eating better every day can help make you and your child healthier.
Can we do it?
Yeah, you know that we can.
We'll ball it up,
Cause we know how to hoop.
we'll mess around,
Cause we know how to play.
we'll drop it down,
Cause we know how to dance.
we'll veg it up.
Veggie night and day.
Can we do it?
Search We Can online to find doable tips and activities that you can use every day to keep you and your kids healthy. Remember, that's We Can. A message from the Ad Council, HHS, and NIH's We Can program.
Okay, class, let's all sing our 911 song. There's a fire, there's a fire.
Dial 911.
There's a fire, there's a fire.
Dial 911.
If you can't raise an arm,
Dial 911.
if you're suddenly having trouble speaking these words,
Dial 911.
face suddenly, Goes all numb?
Dial 911.
All of a sudden get the worst headache of your life?
Dial 911.
Sudden loss of sight in one or both eyes?
Dial 911.
If you think stroke may be the cause, never wait to call.
Dial 911.
911. Making a difference in someone's life is elementary. Know the sudden signs of stroke and dial 911 immediately if they appear. Time lost is brain lost. For more information, visit powertoendstroke.org. Brought to you by the American Heart Association, American Stroke Association, and the Ad Council.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes two. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese!
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed, could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
All right, we're back with more of the Will Lawson Show here on iHeartRadio. We appreciate you being here this evening or whenever you're listening to the show. We understand that a lot of you listen to the show at all times of the day and day part or whenever, and I appreciate that. We had decided that we were going to do a show every Tuesday and Wednesday at 9 a.m., but that hasn't really worked. So we'll just catch it as we'll do catch as catch can. That's what we'll do. As a matter of fact, it's going to be a little bit more catch as catch can coming to the future, because I just got word from my friend Eric Odom of Liberty News that he was looking for a Florida coordinator, a state coordinator for the state of Florida for the Patriot Action Network. And you can learn more about the Patriot Action Network at patriotaction.net. I am now the state coordinator for the Patriot Action Network. So you're going to see more posts from me having to do with Patriot Action. I am to maintain and manage the state page on patriotaction.net. I'm also going to start doing on a daily basis. This is why this is all going to get real crazy real fast. Hopefully starting Monday, a Google Hangout for the Liberty Newscast. Now, we had experimented with Liberty Newscast before, but we're going to continue that, and it's going to show on the Patriot Action Network on patriotaction.net. I am also now the editor of Florida Dash, which is a website that is based on Florida conservative news inside the state of Florida. I am looking for volunteer bloggers. If you are living in the state of Florida and or you cover Florida's political scene, and you are a right of center blogger, send me an email at willielawsonshow@gmail.com if you'd like to have some of your work featured on Florida Dash. I'd love to have some people on board to help me out with this project. So as you can tell, things are going to get really very busy, very, very, very fast. So we could really use your help, and especially as we try to great group of Republican women in Vero Beach, and we are hoping to schedule the second leg of our Republican Renaissance tour, especially as it has to do with our subject is community infusion, over the fallacy and failed policy of minority outreach for Republicans. So if you've got somewhere where you think that we can deliver this message and you'd like us to come to where you are, send me an email at willielawsonshow@gmail.com, willielawsonshow@gmail.com, and I'll let you know the particulars of how to get us there. How about that? Alrighty, listen, back to the State of the Union address of the president. So often in politics, when you see people campaigning, they don't mention the specifics. And the president, as he made it abundantly obvious to all the Republicans in attendance, he is not campaigning. He's not running for anything else. And to that line, there was some applause from Republicans and a quick and a quick jab from the president. Oh yeah, I won both of my elections. And got this reaction from the gallery and Democrats. Ooh, I guess he told y'all. It was kind of childish, but okay, and kind of funny. The fact of the matter is that Republicans have to learn something. Republicans in Congress have to learn something. What we have to learn is the ability to sit quietly, have a half smile on your face for an hour and a half while on television, like you're being pleasantly entertained by a group of 12-year-olds. What you're not going to do is frown, and what you're not going to do is fidget. What you're not going to do is sleep. What you're not going to do is look like you're a petulant child. What we have to learn, and I think those in Congress, especially for the next time, have to learn how to sit quietly, not fidget, and not have that I'm bored look on their face for about 90 minutes. So when the camera goes to you, you look like you might actually be interested, or at least you're paying attention in a way that's constructive. Ted Cruz failed. That one shot of him, he looked angry, bored, disinterested. Not a good look. The whole time I'm looking back over the president's shoulder at John Boehner, who looked very much the same, who looked bored, who looked tired, who looked like he was disinterested. He looked like at some points that he wanted to cuss at some of the things that the president was saying. But we have to have a lot more self-control in that. And I know it's easy for me to say because I was sitting at home in front of my computer, and I could have whatever expression on my face I wanted. And I understand it might have been a lot more difficult had I been in the room, but I think I would have thought about it because there's no telling. There is absolutely no telling when the camera is going to be on you. And that is the impression that people are going to have about the amount of respect that you're showing towards the office and the individual. So we don't want to, it's like anything else. You never want them to get you on anything. Anymore, the game is you always want to be on point. Always. Even for the most ridiculous things, you always must be on point. Everything has got to be just right. All the time. But in any case, let's talk about some specifics. Let's talk about the president with free university, free community college. Now, what he said, he wants, this is my whole thing about having your cake and eating it too. What he wants is the Congress to send him a bill that lowers the cost of community college to zero. That lowers the cost of community college to zero. He wants them to send him a bill that makes community college free, with all the constrictions and restrictions that I'm sure that a lot of his people will insert into that bill, and the restrictions and constrictions of such legislation will involve the colleges themselves, the majors that get that get supported, that get paid for. You've got to keep a certain GPA. You've got to finish within a prescribed amount of time. I'm sure that there will be a lot of restrictions and constrictions on a plan like this, but and the preliminary cost of such a plan is $60 billion over the next 10 years. $60 billion. Now, whenever we talk about what a government program is going to cost, we've all learned this, that it's going to be 5 to 6 times more expensive than the government first says. Now, that, quote, free, end quote, community college is going to cost somebody over the next 10 years at least $60 billion. That doesn't make it free. There's nothing free. We are all grown-ups here. Well, most of us are grown-ups. I'm sure I have some teenagers listening, but most of us are grown-ups, and most of us understand there's nothing free. That college education, those classes are going to cost somebody something. Somebody is going to pay for it. Now, the people that the president wants to pay for it is you know what, we spent a couple of summers ago talking about the 1%, and now the president is talking about the top 10th of the 1%, the wealthiest Americans, that somehow they have some moral obligation. Now I want to talk about this for a minute. That somehow the president believes that, and the liberal left believes that these people have some sort of moral obligation to participate with their tax dollars in these programs. Now, what he forgot, and what the liberal left doesn't get, is that the top 10% of the top 1% are, by their nature, the most philanthropic people we have in the country already. Charity cannot be had at the point of a gun. You can't force somebody to be charitable, and you can't be charitable with somebody else's money. You can't be charitable with somebody else's money. You know what? You can't tell me. You can't come to me and argue for a free community college by saying, you know what, we're a great country and we ought to do this. And I can't believe that you wouldn't want to help some young person go to college. Well, I would, but forcing me to do it isn't charitable. That's thievery. Putting a gun to my head and making me do it is not charitable. It's thievery. It's thuggery. It's robbery. It's not charitable. And I think that indeed is what we have to make sure that people know. I mentioned earlier today when talking about these subjects on the Blog Talk Radio show and the earlier show I did on iHeartRadio here, that the president last night was the sales guy at the car lot, getting you involved in the emotion of these things, and I'm telling you, it's got to be an emotional. It's an emotional thing when a parent who has 3 kids or 4 kids is getting ready, you know what, and maybe 2 of them are headed to college, either at the same time or the next couple of years, and you look at what colleges cost, and I'm sure they're wondering how the hell they're going to pull this off. Because you want them to go to you want them to go to good colleges, and you know what, and they're applying at Duke, and they're applying at Stanford, they're applying at MIT and Yale and Harvard and some of the more prestigious public universities around the country. They're applying at NYU, and they're applying at very prestigious universities that are in turn very expensive. and you're wondering how you're going to live in your home, have cars, be able to go to work with kids, 1 or 2 kids in college. And when somebody shows up and says, and when the president shows up and says, hey, listen, if your children choose community college first, then it'll be free. That's an emotional moment for you. That's an emotional moment for you. And it's hard to refuse that. And I said this on the take-home edition Spreaker show I did a couple hours ago, and I'll say it this way again, that we have to what we have to end up doing as conservatives, we have to separate the idea from the implementation. There are a lot of things that seem like good ideas, or that frankly are good ideas, but can't be implemented. Free college, just like high school. So if the student has the grades to get into the local community college and he wants to continue and get into a program that they can get right to work, a lot of them do. Nursing is one of them, and I'm guessing that nursing would be one of those majors that the president's plan is looking to gain, and anybody in the medical field, because the Affordable Care Act is going to be shoving doctors out the door faster than we can shake a stick at. So you're going to be seeing a lot of nurses, and you're going to be seeing a lot of physician assistants, where you might not be seeing a lot of doctors in the next 10 years or so. Because regardless of what Joni Ernst in the Republican response to the State of the Union message says, that there is no chance. Let me help you. There is no chance in the next 2 years that the Affordable Care Act will be repealed. Zero chance. Zero chance. So conservatives, take that off your plate. Zero chance that the Affordable Care Act will be repealed. Zero chance. Because the president said last night, and please listen to what he said. He said that any attempt to roll back and to take health care coverage away from people, he will veto. Now, and there simply are not enough votes to override a presidential veto. So there is zero chance of the Affordable Care Act being repealed. Now, that may make a lot of you sad and angry, and you'll want to blame John Boehner because of it, and you'll want to blame me because I didn't agree with you, because I told you, and you can go ahead and blame me. You can blame John Boehner. But civics says that it won't happen. And the president has already said that he is going to repeal any bill that tries to defund and tries to roll back his signature piece of legislation. It's not going to happen, friends. It simply is not going to happen. Not in the next 2 years. And maybe not ever. We may indeed be stuck with this onerous piece of legislation for many, many years to come. It definitely won't get changed until there is a Republican president. Let me help you. It won't get changed until there's a Republican president who is not afraid of not being reelected. Because there are going to be a number of people by then who are hooked on this drug, even though this isn't even a good drug. This is the meth of legislation. It's not even a good drug. It's a drug that makes you jittery. It's a drug that costs a lot, and doesn't really give you enough a high that lasts very long. It's not a good drug. But we'll have so many people hooked on it that they won't think they can do without it. So you'll have to have a Republican president who's willing to sign off and sign some bills that roll back and defund the Affordable Care Act, but it's not going to happen in the next 2 years. It simply isn't going to happen in the next 2 years. And what I'm guessing is that when some of the Republican candidates for president start to pop their heads up, that some of them will pledge to the American public that he or she will be ready to sign a bill that repeals the Affordable Care Act. And I imagine whoever says that most forcefully will probably get the Republican nomination. Whether it actually happens or not, frankly, I'm not holding out much hope for. I'm simply not holding out much hope for. All right, so I'm going to take a little break. We'll be back with more of the Will Lawson Show here on iHeartRadio right after these messages.
Hey, is that a faucet running?
Nope, that's not a faucet. That's a river rushing through the forest.
It is?
Yeah, forest rivers provide over 100 million people with clean water to drink. The water comes straight from the forest to us. In fact...
What? I can't hear you because of the vacuum.
That's not a vacuum. That's the trees in the forest cleaning up the air we breathe.
How do trees clean the air?
They soak up the dirty air on their leaves, branches, and trunks, which means clean air for us.
Cool. I didn't know that.
Yep, but the forest does more than give us clean air and water. It gives us shade for hot days, birds to listen to, and trees to climb.
Wow, that's awesome. I didn't know how cool the forest could be. Hey, let's go explore some more.
Visit the forest today and enjoy all it does, just for you. To learn more about the forest and find one near you, go to discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
I'll pick you up after school. Okay, I got it.
It's easy to take a day for granted. You and your family are connected by routine, and you stick to it. But what if a disaster strikes without warning? What if life as you know it has completely turned on its head? What if your day's routine is disrupted and you can't reach your family? Have you planned for that? Before a disaster turns your family's world upside down, it's up to you to be ready. Get a kit, make a plan, be informed. Today. Learn how at www.ready.gov. Ready.gov. This message brought to you by the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the Ad Council.
Well, good morning. Are you interested in upping your conservative IQ? To be more solid in your conservative thought? To be able to debate at a higher level, to be able to understand at a higher level what conservatism in America is really all about. Well, I can help you now. Alongside us as partners is a new partner, the RedRiverChronicle.com website. The RedRiverChronicle.com website, whose founder is Kevin Batts, understands what conservatism is all about, and understands it in the way they write their articles, their commentary, all the educational material that is on the website, put together in a great way, very easy to navigate. So if you want to up your IQ, go to redriverchronicle.com. You have discriminating taste and an eye for the impressive. You need to surround yourself with not only beauty, but quality. That is why you are looking for a new construction home for you and your family. Let the experts at New Homes of Tampa Bay guide you to and through your new home purchase process. With access to hundreds of model homes throughout the Tampa Bay area, New Homes of Tampa Bay is sure to find that perfect match of budget and beauty you are looking for. New Homes of Tampa Bay can save you thousands of dollars while costing you nothing. Call us today before you start your new home search. New Homes of Tampa Bay at 813-770-9452 and at www.newhomestpa.com. All right, we're back with more of the Will Austin Show here on here on iHeart Radio. Sorry, it is where I left off. I think it's very important that we understand what we're actually up against. The president was very, very adamant last night in the State of the Union address about points where he was not going to budge, while all the time calling for a new politics, one that isn't so partisan. When he's planning on being or continuing to be one of the most partisan presidents in the history of our nation. Here's my thought as we finish up this show, is that we do not get sucked in. We do not get sucked into the petty. That if there are important points that are important to you, let them not be caught up in petty. Let them be points of principle that simply must be adhered to, that you are not going to back away from, that you are not going to be told, it's 2014 now. Come on. If abortion is one of them, then I think it's important that we tell the president that we are not going to move on abortion, that we tell our Congress critters that we're not moving on abortion. We are not moving on abortion. I think it's important that we tell our Congress critters that we're not moving. We're not moving on legalizing illegal immigration. We are not budging on legalizing illegal immigration. That there isn't a chance in the world that we are going to compromise on an immigration bill without first securing the border and putting into play a way to verify that security before moving to anything else. Now, I've said to you on the Will Austin Show on Blog Talk Radio for a number of years, there aren't any it's simply not logistically possible to round up 21 million people and send them back to where they came from. It's not possible. But I think it's important that we tell all of our Congress critters and those who are thinking about running for president, as far as immigration goes, there will be no talk of immigration. There will be no talk of legalizing illegal immigration in any way, shape, or form until we have enacted brand new border security and the mechanism by which to verify that security has been invented and implemented. There'll be no talk, no compromise, no anything about the legalization of illegal immigration, i.e. amnesty or dream children. None of that. None of it. You're going to have to go through this door first. And I think that the sooner we tell the president, the better. The sooner that message gets to the White House, the better. That we're not going to talk. We're not even going to discuss it. That we're not interested in that conversation whatsoever until that we have a verifiable, secure border on both our northern border and our southern border. That it's simply not going to happen. And just like he says that he gets letters from people, like the example that he used last night about that young lady and her husband, then he needs to get the same sort of letters from you and I. He needs to get the very same sort of postcards the very same sort of emails. As a matter of fact, I am all for writing a petition on the White House website. Now, of course, when these petitions get written, if they get to 2,500, they have to address them. That there can be no talk of legalizing illegal immigration until, first of all, the borders are secured, and I'm going to say it one more time, there is a instrument that we can verify the security of said borders. That is, and we have to let the president know, and we have to let our Congress critters know. Completely and totally non-negotiable. Non-negotiable, Mr. President. I think that's important. I think that, and the sooner, I think we have that. I think the sooner that we have that out there, the sooner that we can stave off what we might get from a presidential candidate like maybe a Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush needs to understand, with no uncertain terms, that we will not be fooled again. We will not be fooled again like Reagan was fooled. We have to understand that, and I know it's hard for a lot of you to say anything negative about Ronald Reagan, but Ronald Reagan got duped into amnesty, thinking that the borders will be secured in the process, and that was never the case. That was frankly never the intention. So I think that we have to be incredibly sure that we lead this discussion. And I said this 2 years ago, January, that we lead this discussion. Marco Rubio failed by getting involved with some bad actors when there should have been, the Gang of Eight should have been a gang of 8 conservative Republicans talking immigration, talking securing borders, before you do anything else. I don't think there's a logistical way to round up 21 million people and send them back to Mexico or wherever else the hell they came from. So you're going to have to do something with the people who are here. And you can't send them all home. Why? Because it's not possible. The biggest reason is because it's not possible. It can't. Again, it's one of those things. We're back to where we were before. It's one of those things where it may be a good idea, but it may be completely and totally unimplementable. It may be a fantastic idea, but it may be a situation where it simply can't be implemented. And I think that we are in that we would be in that very same position if that was going to be our only response to what we're talking about immigration wise. It's not enough. It's not going to be enough, but we need to be dealing from a position of strength and clarity. No discussion about anything else immigration wise. No discussion until the borders are secured. And we have a viable instrument that verifies their security. So a lot of work has to be. So if the president, I want to make sure that I would want to make sure that he knows unequivocally that a lot of work has got to be done in securing of our borders before he can get anywhere near to his dream children. Before I'm the least bit interested in having that conversation. A lot of work has to be done. A lot of work that he or his party does not want to do. And they haven't had to. But with a Republican majority in the House and a Republican majority in the Senate, they have no choice if indeed they want to get anywhere near to where they say they want to get when it comes to immigration. That's the kind of stuff we have to do moving forward. That's the kind of stuff and that's the attitude that we have to take moving forward. If they want to talk about free college, you know what I want to talk about? I want to talk about defunding and dismantling large portions of the Department of Education. So you're not interested in talking about defunding and dismantling a large part of the Department of Education? No, then I'm not interested in your free college. We're not talking about your free college. Well, you're holding it hostage. Okay, but you know what? If we're going to operate in a spirit of cooperation and compromise, then guess what? You're going to have to compromise. We just won't talk about all the things that you want to talk about. That's not how this relationship is going to be. I think the sooner we do that, the sooner that we tell our Congress critters that when they do that, we will support them, and that those people who are going to run for president in 2016, the sooner they take up that attitude, the more that we will support them. And the sooner we get that message out, I think the better. All right, my name is Willie Lawson, and this is the Willie Lawson Show on iHeartRadio. Sorry for the technical problems we had this morning. I hope this makes up for it. Until I see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, take care of yourself. We'll see you when we see you. Bye-bye now.